Yeah, I don't know why it's got that delay, man. But either way, we made it, and we're excited, and we're glad to be back. And we appreciate everyone for joining in. And we are joined by none other than the Mosconi Cup captain, Jeremy Jones. Jeremy, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Joey. Yeah, happy to be here.
Let's jump right into it, man. When did you get the news that you were going to be back representing the red, white, and blue, man?
Well, today it aired, but it wasn't too long ago.
I've been pushing for you.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, Matchroom's going to do their due diligence, and they're going to think things through. Um, and I was happy to hear that I was going to get this chance in U.S. soil.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jeremy, this year, a little different year, full calendar. Have you given thought about the preparation leading up to it, doing something different this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Try to take advantage of the storm and a good storm in pool right now. I think after last year's Mosconi, there's a lot of offered support, like there always is. But pandemic made that a little handcuffed. I think back to my first couple years as assistant captain, and there were some opportunities that came about for us as a team prior to even selecting the team. Really, going to Russia, getting together a couple times during the year, with more than 5 players. What you might think the ones that are really in contention, and hopefully there's going to be some more surprises. But yeah, trying to travel a little bit more, get that camaraderie. Not that we were lacking that last year, but every little bit helps. And try and make each other better. I mean, who's going to have more influence on making each other better than ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So we gotta concentrate on that and take as much advantage as we can.
Well, we got a full calendar to go and look at. A lot of 9-ball events. We're here at the World 10-ball Championships. I'm curious what players have already started off this year, on the radar for you now that we've had Derby City as the first event.
Well, I think a name that wasn't on the Mosconi or ever has been on the Mosconi. Shane Wolford's a guy that had made some noise at the end of the year last year and has continued on. Had a pretty nice showing. And also had a pretty nice showing along with, you can tell, the battle. There's no give up. Of course, at his age, I would expect no give up. But there's a lot of youngsters coming up with the JIC. I always talk about it that you can't ever see a filler coming or a Shane coming, really. I mean, we talk about a lot of guys like that have that potential, but you just never know when it's just going to click at that certain age,
Yeah.
for a number of guys.
For sure. And I saw him just the other night whenever he was playing Copigny in the, I want to say the final 32 of the Alpha event that just ended. But you're right, man. I mean, he didn't seem intimidated by a name or by a moment. I mean, it was late at night, but there was a lot of people there watching, and he showed all the grit in the world, man, in that match.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try to remind all those guys, whether it's an existing champion or someone trying to be, get very involved in yourself. Even though that doesn't sound like a Mosconi thing, but that is a professional sports thing. And anyways, especially in our game, we can get a little wrapped up with the atmosphere and stuff and the situation of who we're playing. But if you get involved with yourself, it really leans towards a better match, usually, no matter the setting. Then you got Justin Martin. You got, of course, Tyler Steyer, who's been on a couple of Mosconis. You got Chris Robinson. Those guys are still improving and looking to improve. And, for Justin or Shane or any of those along those lines, it's not going to be a one-year deal for some guys. It's going to be that second year, that third year.
Right.
I was one of those guys. I've already played great, I thought, anyways, until I started playing professionally. And then I was like, whoa, okay.
Do you think that experience on playing at the top level professional pool gives you credibility with these guys now? All those younger players?
In what manner? Me?
Yeah,
What?
you specifically.
Yeah. I think,
I mean, you're well renowned as an amazing, pool teacher and coach, things like that.
And,
But
the commentary, I think, helps trust in a lot of ways. And I think last year's Mosconi may help even more so, even though it was unfortunate we lost Earl, but I got to step in and, I try to display what it takes. I put a lot of thought into what it takes.
I think you did a real good job at showing that you're willing to go to battle with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was always like that, so it wasn't too out of character. I just had to kind of a little refresher course, quick one. Um,
Only on the biggest stage in pool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, but I mean, that's the thing that maybe I get back to. Really get involved in yourself. It makes it easier in every setting. I think we see the best in the world. They're very much like that. Shane, Skyler, Federer, Albin Ocean, Jason Shaw, all those guys. Of course, they love everything about the sport and being a top sportsman. But really, when it comes down to it, they're really good because they're concerned with themselves. And that's how the sport's played.
I'm really curious to know what you did when you found out that you were going to be playing, like any type of tune-up or anything last year to kind of get you ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I stayed late that first night. I was fortunate enough to get some time on the VIP table, which nobody on either team I think uh, had a problem with that, considering the situation. Um,
Are y'all not allowed? Is no player allowed to go and play up until the match time, like usually?
no, no, no. We have a practice table, but you only have one. You have five guys.
Okay, I
You
get
know what
you.
I mean.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that they have to get prepared. As much as anything. Um, for myself, like I said, I had a couple long talks with myself about how you have to try to play to win, not what you think you can bring, but what you're supposed to bring. And that's the only way to really win. If I went out there kind of cinching balls, um, in my mind, that doesn't get W's. We've had players in that mindset before, and it was very easy for me to recognize that mindset. So, just like some shots, I think that end up being some pretty good highlights. Those are shots I'm shooting at whenever I'm in stroke. So I've
That's
told
pretty rarely.
myself that I had to do that in the match. Like a Dennis or Kulo. The top guys don't really back off the shot,
Right.
no matter the setting, right? So I kind of felt like I had to have that mode, even if they didn't go in,
Right.
to really not only get to that mode, but also to give a chance to get some points.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it was full speed ahead. Play like you're playing perfect. Play like you're playing your best, even if you haven't been playing a lot. Right. Have the confidence and hit the shots the way you would if you were playing your best. Right.
Yeah, and hopefully, if I did it 5 times, at least a few of them would go in, right? So I got that feeling of, that feeling of something good, right? So,
Yeah.
like the speed runners, they think they put weights on them. No, they don't. I mean, they do that in a sense, but the training is they run them downhill to get the experience of the legs moving faster, right? So you got to experience what you're aiming for, kind of like, right?
Right, for
So
sure.
even
So
if you fall a few times.
well, I thought you did great.
Well,
There was
thank you.
Mike probably remembers the exact ball, but I don't right now. But I remember there was a shot you rolled up on, and I remember thinking, man, how is Jeremy feeling right now? This is like a difficult shot and a difficult moment, and you nailed it.
A
And I
two
remember,
ball down the rail,
Yeah,
maybe
yes,
that's
going
the
three
one.
yes,
rail.
That's
Yeah.
the one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It sent a
whoa,
message, man. Like
we got action.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I remember. I mean, I do a little bit of wagering here or there, but there were matches where especially me betting on Team Europe, I'm thinking, okay, when Jeremy's in, I got a pretty good shot at getting that point. And then whenever you started going and firing balls in, I was like, my money may not be so safe right now, man. And it was inspiring. I'm curious, were there any players on the team that maybe you looked to go and lean on, who gave you support, who picked you up, who gave you motivated, because you really went into it with, I'm gonna be that guy for the players, and now it's kind of like now you're out there.
Yeah, and we were there early, right? And Earl was around us, and the guys leading up to Earl were so pumped to play with Earl,
Right.
And then even, you know, in the bus, we start talking about a subject, and you could tell there was like how pool players we can play devil's advocate with each other a little
Right.
bit, but then there was that instant mode of, hey, let's make sure everyone's pumped as much as they can. And then when Earl went down, it's like I took his place, and I didn't really have to lean on much. I mean, they were pretty spirited to see me in action, so that kind of felt special. You know what I mean? And the Mosconi creates the most interesting, unique feelings and moments.
There was plenty of
And I
that.
got some new ones this past year. So.
All right. So what happens if you get the call again? Are you going to be ready come November? I mean, let's hope it doesn't come
Yeah,
to
are
it.
you gonna
Right.
call?
Not that you played bad or anything, but
Are you gonna call your number? Are you?
Yeah, well, I got kind of asked that this morning as well, and you never say never, right? But we'll see what happens. I'm going to play a couple of big events.
I
This
like
year.
hearing that. That's cool.
I don't really I really want the guys to know that, hey, yeah, they got to beat the captain to make the team, kind
I
of
love
thing.
it.
So
That ought to be
in a sense,
that ought to
which
be one of
I'm
the
sure they're
steps.
putting their quarters up.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're all putting their quarters up.
So I've never been to a Mosconi Cup
Me
Oh,
neither.
wow.
Me neither.
until this year.
You either?
No, me neither. I'm
I-
gonna go this year. I bought
I
my
have
tickets
two
already.
tickets. Oh, you did?
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to weasel in the
Oh,
one
here
with
we
me
go.
and my
No,
wife.
yeah. I know you're real
But
nitty.
yeah, I got 2 tickets. I'm so excited. And so tell me what you think it's going to be like this year in Vegas.
Well, it's going to be crazy for sure. That's one thing I think. We wouldn't certainly try to tell anybody what to do, but we want it.
You want the fans to show out, to show
Oh
up,
yeah,
to
we
go
want it.
nuts.
We want it pandemonium at its best, though. Of course,
Right.
Of course, remember where we're at and what we're doing, but go crazy as you can without offending too many people. I guess that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see something unique from the U.S. fans. Get creative, and because they really do mean someone, it comes down to trying to win that cup. I think it's going to be around 2,000 because we're at Bally's, so it's got trimmed back a hair, but it's going to feel like 10, and I think they're going to see that they could probably field 10,000 here in America.
I remember when after the Mosconi Cup ended, I'm thinking they ought to go and just release the tickets because there's that excitement and build off that momentum. And then they waited 2 months, and I thought, I think maybe they kind of missed the boat. And then when they finally released them, I think it sold out in something like 36 hours or something. I mean, it's pretty nuts. I'm curious what's going to be the expectation from the American players. What can we expect to go and see from them?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of fight. There's things you got to learn from that I got to remind them that they're learning from, even if it's kind of like great players sometimes. A lot of them, the great ones, they practice the same thing. Some of them are conscious of it, Mike, and some of them aren't conscious of it.
More like it's a natural thing, or
Meaning, well, like timing, for instance. They're practicing, they're feeling timing, but they're maybe not labeling it. Oh, I'm practicing timing.
right?
Okay, some are more aware of what they're trying to practice, and there's not a flaw in either, to a sense. But when also you're trying to learn, you got to remind those guys that they're improving. You got to remind them that they're learning, and sometimes remind them exactly what they're doing on both. So that's my job a little bit, and again for them to think about. But yeah, one big thing that I saw last year, and it goes from the top guy down to the bottom guy, which was me, is you can't let that one mistake, that race to 5 in that moment, makes you think one mistake costs you. And some matches it does, but if you have that mindset, that's a lot of extra pressure because that one mistake is in front of you instead of like, hey, one mistake is just one mistake, So that's a big one for me and my team this year, no matter who it is, and no matter where they're at on the depth chart.
Well, we got this lady coming in by the name of Tara Domino, and she's
What was her name?
Tara Domino.
Tara,
Yeah,
okay.
and she does inside performance coaching. And I'm curious, what if any, like, how important is it to have the mental strength to be on that stage?
Well, it's huge, but you talk about what leads to what, and now teaching and being a player for a long time, but now teaching for 7 years in our sport. And I think many actually, a sound physical leads towards a sound mental. I'm a firm believer of that.
So one will complement the other.
One will get the other one started in the better direction, maybe, and definitely complement.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% correct. But when you talk about trying to make one of them better, I think it's, of course, we'd like to make them both better. But the solid physical, I think, leans toward. It's almost like in a simple term, I've gotten beaten in the finals by pros that didn't know the game half as well as I did, but their sound execution would overcome a bit of a bad decision.
Well, I think it was your knowledge that helped carry you in certain parts of the Mosconi Cup, because I remember that moving battle that you had, that epic one with David Alcade, where, I mean, it was a lot of moving where everybody would agree that you go and trump him on so many different categories in that regard.
Well, and he's great at it. I mean, it's one of my.
I know he's got a 3 cushion background. I mean, no disrespect to him.
One of my fortes, I guess, like grinding out games that aren't so pretty. And maybe that's a little touching on the surface, and maybe just a little edge of overcoming a mental mistake with great execution. but that's just a mild example of what I was talking about. If you become sound physically, it's not you can't ever set it aside, but that it just leads towards a calmer mind overall. Usually the stroke, whenever you're more sound, it's a little calmer.
Right.
It's kind of like Billy Thorpe. When we're working with him, I told Billy, I said, "Well, Billy, we're trying to slow you down, and you're doing this up on the ball." I was like, and you're, pardon my French, moving pretty quickly. You know what that French is, but around the table, I said that's not leading in the direction we're trying to head. And so, when you have something you're dealing with, sometimes you got to go a little extreme to get it heading in the right direction. And then sometimes it takes a lot. Like Billy, for instance, for him to slow down, he's going to have to be mindful of that for a little while. And then it'll become more natural. But physical in our sport, I think, certainly leads towards a great mental.
You mentioned working with Billy. I know you've worked with Chris and others. And for someone who is already so talented as a player, is it harder to get them to kind of buy into what, like you
Great
said,
question.
Billy's got that fast stroke? Is it easier or harder to get somebody like Billy to listen and try to buy into that?
Well, yeah, because they're going to, their talent is so high that I keep reminding them there's two ways to play. There's a way you can play where you have to rely on your talent, and there's a way where you can have your talent flourish. So, you have to go a little bit beyond. With the pros, you're talking about thousands of shots before they maybe start to really see it, because for them it's about the pressure moment. They could all take it. I could probably mimic a bunch of different strokes in the practice room and play pretty darn well because I'm a pretty talented guy. And so could they, right? But when it comes down to it, it's the crucial balls and big moments that they're going to reflect on and say, hey, something cost me or something got me across the line. So.
Yeah, and they have to be committed to wanting to change or wanting to learn, because I can imagine they're gonna go a little down before they go up.
Yeah, and some, the good thing with the pros really is that most of them have what you're looking for. They're just not doing it all the time, kind of like amateurs at times. So it's a different degree. But the beautiful thing is we're blessed with a lot of players that really go through that process each and every shot, and you can tell they trust it. Feder Gorst and Alvin Ocean, when pressure's on, their process really, they can rely on it. Instead of relying on their talent in a bad process or no process, now they just say, hey, I rely on my process. I recognize it's hill or tough shot, but I'm going to go through my steps. And after you do it enough, it proves to you it works.
It's funny you mentioned Federer because I remember after he won the world championship, I had messaged him because I was beyond happy for him, and I said, "Man, you were just a machine out there." And he said, "I was nervous as you know what, right?" And I said, "Well, we couldn't tell." And he said, "Well, I just fell back on my mechanics, on what I've learned up until that point." He said, "But I'm there, I'm shaking like a leaf."
Yeah.
But it's all the work all that preparation that led to that moment that, pushed him over the edge.
Well, and there's a thing to that. That routine. People ask me about what the routine is. Some people say, "Well, you should walk the table this much. You should do this." And they're like, I'm a firm believer, and Federer is the one that I think kind of proves it. Which I was that way. Is I believe your routine is built by a few many tasks. So if you have a few tasks going on, right, you start to not see, even though he's nervous, he's
Right.
doing something, right? It's like a busy day of work or a slow day. Slow day, your mind wanders. It takes all day. Busy day, it goes by fast because you have things in front of you have to do. So he does his task. It makes that hard shot look a little less more like a normal shot and makes the setting, his nerves wouldn't have been near as good or handled them near as well if he didn't go through those steps that kind of will quiet the mind a little bit because you're busy doing something. And that first that routine doesn't feel that good, but in a time you start to really lean on it. So.
Well, I'm curious. You mentioned playing a little bit, and we saw you play a little bit this last December. Is there another title run left in the tank of Jeremy Jones?
Well, the tournaments that I do play in this year, I'll certainly be prepared.
Yeah.
Last year at the U.S. Open, I was honest afterwards. I wasn't as prepared, so I got some very bad unprepared nerves is what I call them. There's prepared nerves and there's unprepared nerves. Prepared nerves, you do great things, and unprepared, not so much. So I liked experiencing that bad feeling, so I make sure I don't do it again.
I love it. Well, listen, I know the last time we saw you on the TV table was back in December, but there's a TV table here. As a fan, I want to see you shoot the shot. I want to see you lay down the shot. Can we set it up and record it and see if you can put
Oh, you're
that
talking
ball
about
away?
the six
Of
ball?
course, I'm talking about the six ball. What would I be
Well,
talking
yeah.
about?
that's
well,
right.
the setting would be a little easier here just because of the slick conditions and, well, of course, the crowd or whatever. But I still haven't set it up at home.
Sometime
Really?
Yeah,
in the next week.
I wasn't too worried about making it, even though it was a tough shot. I mean, a lot of the players
you
I
hold the
spoke
ball?
to,
Hold
they
the
were
ball.
like,
That was the thing. Yeah.
no way I would shoot it that way. I was like, well, that's just
You know, you wouldn't believe.
But that's so like the instance I was telling you about, or not backing off. Like, oh, let me cinch this with top. Hopefully, I run into the 8. For me, when I'm playing well, I soft spin that ball in and just see what happens. So
you know, you wouldn't, just so you kind of understand what happens behind the scenes, Jeremy, with the fans. I mean, I probably had a 400 message thread with my friends back and forth about how you should have shot that.
yeah, well, it was, I think, much more difficult than people think, and I, of course, don't have to go into the foul too much. Actually, there's been a few that have brought it up here, and that's, I understand completely. That's one thing about pool, you can ask that person, so it's pretty special. But I don't even recall getting the cue ball cleaned in my career. If it's happened once before that, but I was hitting super soft spin, and nothing against David, but even our referee said that I've never seen a bigger chunk of, and it wasn't just a spot, it was like flakes on top of the, you know what I mean? So soft spin, I felt like I could spin off the side of the cue ball, and I certainly didn't want that to happen, but maybe that was a better choice than what happened in regards. So
It
I
doesn't
thought it
matter
was
because
soft spin.
you made everyone proud no matter what.
Well,
you
thank
know,
you, thank you.
and foul or no foul, or you made the shot, you didn't make the shot, but I mean, I still want to see it though. So maybe we can find a little bit of time. you know?
We'll find time this week if that's all right with y'all.
Yeah, for sure. That's something
Okay,
we can
we'll
set
slick the balls up. We got to slick them up now
All right.
because to get it as close
I'll
to the
defer to
Mosconi
you.
as
You tell me
possible.
whatever we need to have happen, and we'll make it happen.
You got it.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
maybe a few TV lights.
Yeah.
Arena lights.
We got a little bit
Yeah,
of light
I
there,
see
yeah.
that.
We'll
So-
pull some strings.
So what happened with Earl last year must have been devastating for him. Do you think that it soured him towards Mosconi, or do you think there's a chance he's going to get out there this year and work hard and maybe try to get back?
Well, if he's out there, he's going to be working hard. That's for sure. He's not going to go in there without hitting balls and feeling good about himself. And I certainly hope he gets out and competes. I saw a lot of Earl last year, the last few tournaments that I had seen years ago. And he is a lot like what I was talking about earlier, whether it's conscious or not. He's not going to back off the shot that he believes is correct. And he's not all of a sudden going to start thinking differently. Not only do most of us not do that as better players, and him being one of the best ever, but that's not Earl anyways.
No.
Change his mind on a cheeseburger to a tuna sandwich would take something, you know what I mean? So, but he's great for that. And I certainly hope that, it's a souring moment for him. We all felt terrible.
Right.
Matchroom felt terrible. Almost to tears in a sense, because not only the hype, but I think it was going to be incredible what Earl was going to bring. And again, the players wanted to play with him. So I hope he gets out and competes. I hope he has finishes. I hope he makes the team.
It was incredible, just the build up to it. And, there's people, it's kind of like what they used to say about Howard Stern, right? People would watch because they didn't like him and they wanted to hear what he had to say. And then people liked him and wanted to hear what he had to say. And so there's Earl's got his fans and he's got people that, but everybody wanted to see him play.
Right.
And when that happened, I mean, everybody was devastated. But do you think he was going to play well?
I think he was, for sure.
me
I
too.
thought he was going to earn points. To me, I played a lot of doubles with Earl. On the table, I love the doubles with Earl. Now, you got to be a little tough in the corner, and I think Earl will tell you the same, that he wears his emotions on his sleeve. And I'd rather have that, knowing that, than someone that I'm not sure where their emotions are at. So as far as
At least you know where you stand, right?
Yeah, and and on the table itself, he's not going to put you in a bad position. You know what I mean? He may miss a shot. We all miss a shot, right? But it's going to be maximum effort. And even though he plays quick, routes around the table, there's not many that ever knew it better. And the titles speak for themselves on that.
You had to give some thought to the best matchups for doubles with Earl. What were you thinking last year? Who would have been some good
Well,
matchups?
we
a good
felt like
question.
Earl could play well with Shane. We thought that Skyler, as pumped as Skyler was, and I thought that Earl would play well there. Um, we weren't so sure about Tyler just because Tyler's a little more precise, and not saying Earl's not, but you might not recognize precise unless you really know him. So we were leaning a little more towards Chris with Earl in that regard. Plus, they had practiced very well together. Got along great. So those were the combinations I think overall out of all the guys.
Well, I can tell you, we're excited. When the news broke today, because I had Pinozo messaging me, and he said there's something coming out in a few minutes, and I'm like, oh man, there is. So, and when I found out you were back to being announced, I was beyond thrilled, man. I'm super happy for you, and we appreciate you taking your time out of your day to come on and talk shop with us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys do a great job. It just gets better and better. So that's all we're looking for as pool players all the way around. Just improve as you go, right?
Yeah, I did tell you I already bought tickets, but I'm getting that right arm ready just in case you need, just in
Yeah.
case you want to go for the wild card.
You want to
Yeah,
tell him the
there we
Shane
go.
story? No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Don't do
No,
that.
Yeah,
no.
but just again, and there's months to talk about it, but there's never enough time to prepare for it. So I want the fans to think of something unique and don't be bashful if they think they need some help from us on this side. So,
When are you hoping to have a team announced? I mean, I know there's a process on Matchroom side where they want to go and build it up, and I completely get it. But ideally for you,
I think we're gonna have. I believe it goes 2 after. They said it this morning. Sorry, it was early. I had not much
I didn't
sleep
catch
this
that
morning,
part.
but I think it was 2 after the U.S. Open,
Awesome.
then 1 after the International, if I'm not mistaken, and then the rest of, or excuse me, 2 after the U.S. Open. What is the tournament right after the U.S. Open this coming year? Is it back in the UK,
Yeah, I
European,
think
maybe
so.
Germany?
UK Open.
Yeah.
Maybe Germany.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, so and then they'll announce the third after that because the rankings will end, and then I believe after the international we'll announce the final 2. So
Yeah.
don't hold me to that, but it's somewhere around
Somewhere in
that
that
Yeah.
range.
Yeah, I know the first 2 will be after the U.S. Open. So
Well, we're here at the World 10 Ball Championships, and I'm going to get you out of here on this. Who's your pick to go and win?
the World 10 Ball,
Yeah.
I really think an American's going to win it. So
Is that the Homer in you, or I mean, sorry, the
No,
American in you,
no, I
or
took
is that the Jeremy Jones?
Well, of course, I bleed red, white, and blue,
Of course.
and that's not just because of Texas. That's the U.S. also. But I took a long look at Shane. Talked to him the other day a little bit. Without going into it, I think he's in a good spot mentally. I think he's ready to win. Shane plays a big card in professional pools.
He
So,
does.
a lot of people talk to me about what's on my shoulders. I can't imagine what's on his shoulders, walking around as the greatest American player in a long time. So I think he's in a happy spot. Didn't get to talk to him. Maybe something personal is going on that he's loving even more. Who knows? But I just feel good about him. Skyler, who spent a lot of time, at the PLP improving every day, it looked like. Had a
He really did.
unfortunate last day there, but that could happen to anyone. And now a nice big win over Niels, who's playing great, coming
Right.
off a great European championship.
Absolutely.
So Skyler's, he's not a guy that lacks in confidence, but it doesn't hurt to get a little that early confidence in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
So put a little more expectation on his shoulders.
And he's got a good 10 ball break. He pops that ball
Yeah,
great.
and when I talked to him, he commented on that. But one thing Skyler doesn't want to show you all the time is he can brush it off, but like I said, that expectation on his shoulders, he actually does want it, I think,
You
and
can't
he does
tell, though,
think it
man.
needs to be there. So
He handles that pressure like one of the best in the world, because I don't care if he's, 5-1 down in a race to 6 or 5-1 up. Like, he looks the exact same way all the time.
yeah, and that may be a conscious thing that he made sure of a long time ago, but just like we can't tell what someone's seeing,
Right.
That brain, I kind of feel that he wants the pressure on him, even though he can shrug off a loss, or he can say, hey, I got lucky for a win. He's a humble guy, but he knows expectations and eyes are on him to do well.
Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, we appreciate it once again.
Yeah,
my man.
before we let you go, Jeremy, I want to give you a chance to shout out your sponsors. You're a great ambassador for the sport, so go ahead and let folks know who sponsors
Well,
you.
thank you. Of course, Q-Tech, they've been the greatest company I've ever worked with, and they always support me, and it's like a no-brainer if I ask them something. So of course, them Fort Worth Billiards, Albert Trujillo, who does so much for the game, not only in DFW. Of course, Texas itself is one of Jeremy Jones's biggest sponsors throughout my career.
For sure.
Just so everybody has always been great to me there, and I've learned so much throughout the years. And again, my biggest supporter, my wife. I think about it all the time. If I would, all them players wouldn't have wanted me meeting her like 25 years ago. They would have been in real trouble. So, so I still got a chance to win a tournament or two because of her. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jeremy. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
We'll see you guys later.